Thanks, Jane. Hello, you're watching Wales Today. I'm Nick Savini. The headlines. The First Minister says the thoughts of people across Wales will be with the King tonight after his diagnosis with cancer. We'll hear messages of support to the King from around Wales. Also tonight. Back on strike again, junior doctors ramp up the industrial action with plans to walk out for 7 days in their dispute over pay.
We are arresting you on suspicion of murder, OK?
The moment Matthew Pickering was arrested for the murder of his former partner at a house in Neath. Today, he was jailed for life. Public health officials say urgent action is needed to fully vaccinate pupils against measles after a rise in cases.
Barry John, can he make it? Oh, what a try!
And memories of the unforgettable Barry John. Welsh Rugby remembers one of its greatest ever players.
A pleasure to have known him as a person, pleasure to have been his friend, his partner at out at half, and yeah, and good fun.
Good evening. The First Minister says the thoughts of people across Wales will be with King Charles following his cancer diagnosis. In a statement, Buckingham Palace confirmed tonight an issue of concern was noted during a recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement. Our political editor, Gareth Lewis, is with me so far. And Gareth, this news breaking within the past half an hour, and you've been getting the reaction.
Yeah, Nick, as you'd expect, very heartfelt and very concerned reaction from across the political spectrum in Wales. The First Minister saying he's saddened to hear the news that the King is facing further health challenges. Mark Drakeford says his thoughts and those of people across Wales will be with him and his family this evening. I send him my very best wishes as he starts treatment for a full and swift recovery. And he emphasises that in Welsh too. Gwechad Bian, says Mark Drakeford. Andrew R. T. Davies sends his best wishes to His Majesty for a speedy recovery. Sharing this news is real leadership, and I hope it will encourage others to get checked, says the leader of the Conservatives in the Senedd. And then Rhys ap Iorwerth, the leader of Plaid Cymru, picking up on a point I think that many people watching this tonight will empathise with. Cancer cruelly touches the lives of so many families, says Mr ap Iorwerth. His Majesty is to be commended for his openness in discussing his diagnosis. I wish him a full and speedy recovery.
Indeed, a lot of people still digesting this news. And, you know, you and I were involved in the coverage not that long ago of the King in Wales.
Yeah, and it only seems like yesterday, Nick, doesn't it, that both he and Queen Camilla, as she's become, were at Llandaff Cathedral in the days and weeks following the death of Queen Elizabeth. And very poignant watching those scenes now that the royal family and the whole of the country having to deal with more difficult royal news. One thing that struck me from that day and the fortnight too around the death of Queen Elizabeth is how many people felt a connection with Prince Charles as he was then, King Charles as he is now, and a sense perhaps that he got Wales. He understood that Wales was different to the rest of the United Kingdom. There's the learning to speak Welsh, of course, that people may have seen documented in The Crown, which he did in real life too. He's spoken Welsh at services and events that he's attended in Wales as well. And I think that sense too, this diagnosis is something that many, many people across Wales will sadly be familiar with, can empathise with. And whether they've met the King, whether they've met the royal family or not, I'm sure there'll be an awful lot of people across the country tonight, Nick, wishing him well and wishing his family well too.
Indeed. OK, Gareth, thanks very much for that. And we'll have more on the King's cancer diagnosis later in the programme. The rest of the day's news in Wales. They walked out in protest over pay last month, and now junior doctors in Wales will go on strike for a total of 7 days later this month and in March. Over 3,000 doctors are expected to take part in the industrial action. The body, which represents the junior doctors, BMA Cymru Wales, says it's because of an absence of a credible pay offer. The Welsh Government says a 5% pay rise is at the limits of the finances available to them. In a moment, we'll be speaking to Dr Obobabs Osibodu from the BMA. But first, here's Jennifer Jones with a reminder of how we got to this point.
January 15th, when around 3,000 junior doctors walked out across Wales. And so began a 3-day strike over pay.
Brand new doctor, has a lot of responsibility and a lot of stress, is getting paid £13.65 an hour, which I think is absolutely atrocious.
We're just asking to be paid what we're worth.
The BMA says that means ensuring pay is restored in line with inflation. The current 5% offer is the lowest in the UK. Last month, the Health Minister said the commitment to pay restoration had already been made, but they need extra UK government funding.
We're not clear as to whether they are finding additional resources from within their health budget or whether that's additional resources coming from the centre. If it's coming from the centre, we should be eligible for a consequential.
Today, the Welsh Government say they understand the junior doctors' strength of feeling, but they're at the limits of the finances available to them. And without additional funding from the UK Government, they're not in a position to offer any more. So as it stands, junior doctors will walk out for 3 days on the 21st of February and 4 days on Monday, the 25th of March.
The details there of the industrial action from Jennifer Jones. Dr Obababs Osibodo is the co-chair of BMA Cymru in Wales. He's with me this evening. Thanks for coming in. You've rejected a 5%. How much do you want? What kind of figure is on the table at the moment?
Well, we've lost 29.6% of our pay over the last 15 years. And what we're asking for is for that to be restored. But, we're not asking for that to be done in one go necessarily. What we're asking for is a credible in-year uplift and a pathway to pay restoration.
What kind of figures are we talking about here? I noticed in Scotland they've accepted a 12% increase, rejected an 8% increase in England. What kind of figure would be in the ballpark?
Well, I can't, negotiate live on air. But what I will tell you is that 5% is just unacceptable. It's the worst offer in the UK. It's lower than the DDRB pay recommendation. And importantly, it's another real terms pay cut. So Welsh Government have to do better.
They have told us repeatedly there is simply no money there to pay you. Do you accept that at all?
I really don't accept that. Let's put this into context, really. First and foremost, doctors are being paid £13.65 per hour. Something needs to be done about that. But, this is an entirely predictable and preventable issue. They've had 15 years to deal with that, and they've failed to do so. And, if they'd made more sustainable decisions in the past, perhaps we wouldn't be here. But the reality is they need to do something.
You'd be aware how tight the finances are. I mean, you work in the NHS yourself. Cutbacks have to be made.
Welsh Government, they've been elected to make difficult decisions. They've been elected to weather us through storms. But, the NHS right now, it feels almost like a ship without a captain. They have to make choices. They have to deliver.
Look, last month, very significant disruption to appointments and surgery as well. I'm sure a lot of people watching this will have sympathy with you, but that could be stretched. Must be in danger of losing public support for 7 days.
Well, the journey to pay restoration is a national journey. It's not just in Wales. It's happening in England. It's happening in Scotland and Northern Ireland. And in England, we're coming up to a year of strikes straight. And from talking to people on the ground there, public support has only grown. And the situation in Wales is far worse than it is there.
OK, Dr Babs Osibodo, thanks for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
A 49-year-old man has been sentenced to life in prison and will serve a minimum of 17.5 years after killing his former partner at his house in Neath. Matthew Pickering attacked and strangled Georgina Dowie before leaving her body in the bathroom for a day, where she was found with 32 separate injuries. Her daughter said her life had been taken by Pickering in the most horrific and undignified way imaginable. Yola Chung reports from Swansea Crown Court.
Yeah, just listen to me a minute. Right. She has passed away in the house, right? And you are detained, and we are arresting you on suspicion of murder, OK?
This is the moment Matthew Pickering was arrested after killing his partner, Georgina Dowie. In court today, Miss Dowie's daughter said that Pickering had taken her mother's life in the most horrific and undignified way imaginable. She was found at a house on this street in Cadoxton on the 7th of May last year, the day after she'd been killed. The jury heard that she had suffered 32 separate injuries to her body, and a black bag had been found on her head. Georgina Dowie had been in what was described as an on-off relationship with Matthew Pickering, and the court had heard that both had experienced issues with drugs and alcohol. Pickering had admitted manslaughter but denied murdering Miss Dowie, saying that the two had had an altercation which ended up with her being strangled on the bathroom floor. The court heard how, after killing Georgina Dowie, Pickering had been seen on CCTV walking to a nearby shop. He then bought products including bleach, hoping to hide what he'd done. When he was later arrested by police, he tried to say that Miss Dowie had attacked him with a knife, something the judge described as an entirely false claim. The reality was that he'd attacked her in a jealous rage after finding messages on her phone. The court heard that it was Pickering's father who had actually contacted the police after becoming concerned for his son's state of mind, but without knowing what had happened. Sentencing Pickering, the judge Paul Thomas said that he had brutally murdered Georgina Dowie, firstly by inflicting various injuries on her and then strangling her. It would have been a terrifying way to die, he said, and she would have suffered both physically and psychologically. After that, said the judge, Pickering had acted with cold and callous self-interest to try and hide the evidence. He has now been sentenced to life in prison and will serve a minimum of 17.5 years behind bars. Yola Chung, BBC Wales Today at Swansea Crown Court.
It's a disease that was largely eradicated, but after an increase in measles cases across Europe last year, the Chief Medical Officer for Wales says urgent action is needed to fully vaccinate more children here with the measles, mumps and rubella jab. Here's Brendan Williams.
You can catch measles at any age, but Public Health Wales says vaccinating children with the MMR jab is key to reducing the risk of future outbreaks.
Vaccination rates aren't what they need to be. They need to be at about 95% of all of our children in Wales having 2 doses of MMR, measles, mumps and rubella vaccine, in order to keep the virus that causes measles at bay. If you get to lower levels of vaccination coverage, we get breaks.
Across the UK, less than 85% of 5-year-olds have had those 2 doses. The average across Wales is higher at 89.5%, but still below the target.
The take-up rate for the MMR vaccine varies considerably across Wales. It's highest on Anglesey, where 94.5% of 5-year-olds have been vaccinated. Here in Wrexham, the figure is above 92%, but it's lowest in Cardiff and Newport, where less than 86% of children have had both doses.
Here in Wrexham, every parent I spoke to said their children had been vaccinated.
I had measles when I was younger, so obviously my mother was a bit concerned. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure they're protected.
Did you have to give it a lot of thought?
Not really. It's for his protection. We went safer to have it than not.
So what are the signs to look out for? Common symptoms include a high fever, sore and red eyes, coughing and sneezing. Small white spots may also appear inside the mouth. A blotchy red or brown rash usually appears after a few days, typically on the face and behind the ears, before spreading to the rest of the body. Measles normally clears up within 7 to 10 days. However, complications can include pneumonia, meningitis, blindness and seizures. Babies and young children, pregnant women and those with a weakened immune system are at increased risk. All health boards have been asked to take urgent action to ensure 90% of pupils in every school in Wales are fully vaccinated by the end of July. But the message is it's never too late to be immunised, and if you think you've missed a dose, contact your GP.
Brendan Williams reporting there. There are concerns that vulnerable people will be most impacted by the Welsh Government's budget cuts. A group of Senedd members have said that the £600 million in cuts to the budget to protect the NHS and Transport for Wales will come at the expense of long-term measures to reduce poverty. The Welsh Government says incredibly difficult decisions have had to be made. Well, our political reporter Teleri Glyn-Jones joins me from the newsroom. And Teleri, this report is a response to the Welsh Government's draft budget just before Christmas last year. Remind us of the details.
Yes, that's the draft budget is when the Welsh Government set out their spending plans for the next financial year. And as you said, they outlined £600 million of cuts that are designed to protect the NHS and Transport for Wales and to maintain local government budgets. They've been far-reaching cuts to apprenticeships, education, free school meals and childcare, losing out as well. The Welsh Government said that they could afford to cut some of these because of lower take-up. But this report by the Senedd Finance Committee, a group of MPs coming together to scrutinise the work of the Welsh Government, is questioning that, saying they think the Welsh Government should look again at their decisions in order to protect the most vulnerable.
So it's very critical of the decisions that have been made. Give us a few more details in terms of what it's been saying.
Yeah, I'll pick up a few of the main points. Firstly, that one about the most vulnerable being affected. The committee thinks it's important that the Welsh Government prioritise free school meals for secondary pupils and childcare because they're both schemes that in the long term help people get out of poverty. And secondly, the committee says they have serious concerns that the money being given to local government and social care won't be enough to keep services at an acceptable level. The Welsh Government say this is the starkest and most painful financial situation they've ever faced, and they've been clear that they need to take incredibly difficult decisions. But this report suggests that what that actually means, difficult decisions, is also difficult consequences too.
OK, Teleri, thanks very much indeed. Wales has been remembering and marvelling at one of its greatest ever players. Barry John, who died at the weekend at the age of 79, was a mesmerising talent for generations. At the heart of it all was his great half-back partnership with Gareth Edwards, who said today he was capable of unbelievable things under the most immense pressure. It's a poignant moment for Welsh rugby, of course, coming so soon after the death of Barry John's former teammate JPR Williams. Here's Thomas Davitt now on the tributes that have continued to pour in throughout the day.
Taken there by Barry John.
A genius on the field. Barry John spent much of his career alongside Sir Gareth Edwards. While their playing partnership was cut short, their friendship endured.
His vision of the game was such that he could see things that most people just didn't. And that probably was his great strength of being able to assess the weakness in the opposition, even though it wasn't obvious to anybody.
Oh, Christ.
Barry John, number 10, is wearing the microphone in this match between Cardiff and Swansea at the Cardiff Arms Park.
I once asked him, well, how do you know I was going to be over there then? I just know we'd go like that, like some poet who telling the world of how easy it was to write some prose.
Go on, great try. What do you mean go round?
Oh. No, a one-off without question, and a pleasure to have known him as a person, pleasure to have been his friend, his partner at outside half, and good fun. Barry was a good fun to be with.
He shone for the Lions in what is still their only New Zealand Tour Series victory.
He's nearly under the post. Can he get there to Barry John? And Barry John has scored.
But history could have been different. John initially refused the invitation because of concerns over fitness and injury. Coach Carwyn James had other ideas.
Carwyn was smart enough to recognise Barry was a special case, and so he got special treatment. And of course they called him the king in New Zealand. And Kiwis, as you well know, they don't throw compliments to anybody other than those who wear black. New Zealand had never seen a fly half like Barry John. They just couldn't believe what they were seeing. How does he do it?
Following the tour, the man from Cefneithin, a village in Carmarthenshire, was an overnight celebrity.
What do pressures mean to you? What are pressures to you? Have you any instances, illustrations?
I don't know, it's a bit different. See, I'm a lot younger than you, so I
remember Queen Street. I was standing on the side, ready to cross to go to the office. And somebody recognised you and they stopped the traffic. Crazy.
John was in demand. On television, there were personal appearances too. But far from revelling in the adulation, he felt troubled by it.
It was impossible. I remember going up to open one of the Midland Bank in North Wales. And this girl got excited a bit and she curtsied. And then I said, that's it. You know, enough's enough. You can't have this. You can't, you know, that's total alienation, that was. Total alienation.
Following the death of JPR Williams last month, Welsh rugby has now lost 2 legends this year. We will never see their like again.
Tributes there for the unforgettable Barry John, who's died at the age of 79. It was a bid to carry out her father's last wish and scatter his ashes on an iconic Welsh mountain, but it ended with Kitty Harrison stranded on a tiny ledge for hours, staring at a 300-foot drop. Mountain rescuers say her case highlights the growing number of incidents they're dealing with in the 2 years since the COVID pandemic. George Hurd has the story.
She's a bit stuck. This is the moment Kitty Harrison had been waiting for. Rescue after slipping down rocks on the 3,000-foot peak of Tryfan. The trainee dental nurse from Wolverhampton had been fulfilling her father's last wish, scattering his ashes after Steve Parry died suddenly in 2021. But that last loving gesture almost cost Kitty her life.
Just after I'd scattered his ashes, I tried to come back down the way I'd come. And as I turned round, some of my foot slipped on the loose shingle. It was horrible on that ledge. I think at one point I tried to climb back up, but it was so wet and slippy that I was too scared.
The rescue was captured by the BBC One Wales show SOS Extreme Rescues. But Kitty's story is just one of over 350 incidents the Ogwen Valley Mountain Rescue teams have dealt with in the last 2 years, with a 40% increase in calls.
We're now at record numbers of call-outs that we've got, and we're all volunteers in Ogwen Valley Mountain Rescue. No one's getting paid. It has a huge impact on our lives, trying to keep up with the training that's required to be in the team and also the number of call-outs that we've got.
Half term is almost here and spring is just around the corner. And the message from rescue volunteers is please come and enjoy the outdoors, but stay safe. George Hurd, BBC Wales Today in the Ogwen Valley.
Now, Antarctica is about as harsh a climate as you can find anywhere on the planet. So before a new drone could be used by scientists at the British Antarctic Survey to help map the continent, it had to be put through its paces somewhere first. And they did so in Eryri. Our climate and science reporter Georgina Ranard went to North Wales to see it in action.
Scientists are fighting to understand how climate change is altering Antarctica. Decades ago, they travelled by foot and paw before taking to the air.
Oh, it's Victor Bravo Limo.
But now they need technology that works whatever the weather. This could be the answer. A new drone, tested not in Antarctica, but at Llanbedr Flight School in Eryri, also called Snowdonia, where the wild weather put it through its paces.
We have a 700 litres payload bay that...
Is that in here?
Yeah, I can
we
show
open
you.
it?
Wow, so it's kind of like opening a car boot. Yeah, pretty much. Most of the sensors are actually going to be fitted in here.
We're in North Wales. Why are you testing here?
So testing here has actually been incredible for us, both for the facilities at the airfield and the airspace that we have available here, and also because of the harsh weather that we get here in North Wales. It really puts the aircraft through these challenging conditions, and it helps us test. I'll keep monitoring throughout the flight.
The drone is autonomous, and Rebecca will oversee its flights from a computer at base in Antarctica. Researchers have used drones before, but this one is bigger. It can travel up to 1,000 kilometres in one trip and needs just a fraction of the fuel a traditional plane uses, so it's also better for the planet. Joining Rebecca will be scientist Tom Jordan. He's mapped Antarctica before, but now he needs more data. He'll use radar on the drone to draw a picture of what's under the ice sheets to help predict how fast they could melt.
So these spiky bits in the middle, this is actually a mountain range about the size of the European Alps. And looking around, you can see other areas which look suspiciously smooth. Actually, they're not smooth at all. These are gaps in our knowledge, they're just gaps in the map. It's just that no one has ever been there to make these measurements.
Before Tom leaves for Antarctica, we check in with the base.
How's the weather like this season? Has it been panning out okay?
For us, really, the weather is everything. We only fly when conditions are conducive to flying. The landscape you can see behind me, it will certainly be flying over there. They'll be carrying out survey work and environmental measurements in that area and wider afield also.
This drone won't stop the ice melting, but the knowledge it gives us will help us prepare for our planet's future.
Georgina ran out there. Right, let's get the weather. Derek is here. Now, not quite Antarctica, but it is going to get colder, Derek.
It is going to get colder, Nick. You will notice the drop in temperature by Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we've got more wind and rain on the way. Not just rain. There is a risk of snow for parts of mid and North Wales on Thursday, particularly on higher ground, the hills and mountains. More on that in a moment. First, today, and it's been a bit grey, damp and misty in Llangeino, near Bridgend, some drizzle there. A little bit better in Llangollen in Denbighshire, drier and brighter, glimpses of sunshine and a top temperature around 11 Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit. It's also been windy in the north. Today, we've seen wind gusts between 45 and nearly 60 miles per hour in Dyffryn Mymbyr near Capel Curig. Now, tonight will continue windy, plenty more clouds, occasional light rain and drizzle, some mist and hill fog. Drier in the northeast, staying windy, gusts 40 to 60 miles per hour and mild temperatures 8 to 10 Celsius at the lowest. Now, tomorrow, this really active weather front will gradually slide its way southwards. Behind this front, we have colder air to the north. So tomorrow morning, still windy, a few spots of light rain and drizzle. Then it will turn wetter in the north during the morning. This heavy rain will slide further southeastwards during the day. Some poor travelling conditions with fresh to strong and gusty winds. Still mild temperatures above average, 10 to 12 Celsius. The wind easing in the north during the afternoon. And then tomorrow evening, drying up in the north. Heavy rain in the south will gradually clear overnight and it will turn colder as the wind eases. Into Wednesday, a better day, the driest day of the week. Lighter winds and colder everywhere with temperatures in single figures. And then on Thursday, we're keeping an eye on this low pressure over the Atlantic. It's going to throw some heavy rain our way, also some snow as it hits colder air over the UK. The Met Office has issued yellow warning. Most of the snow on higher ground, the hills and mountains in mid and North Wales, the Pennines and the Peak District as well. A little bit of uncertainty over the next couple of days, so stay tuned to the forecast for updates if you can. Take care. Nick.
Will do, Derek. Thanks very much indeed. Back to our main news tonight. Political leaders in Wales have given their reaction to the news this evening of the King's cancer diagnosis. In the last few minutes, the Welsh Secretary, David T.C. Davies, has wished him a speedy recovery, while the Plaid Cymru leader, Rhun ap Iorwerth, commended the King for his openness in discussing his diagnosis. The First Minister, Mark Drakeford, said he was saddened to hear of the King's health challenges and that the thoughts of people across Wales will be with him and his family. And we'll bring you all the latest reaction to the news after the 10 o'clock news later. Hope you can join me then. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.